Hey, Central Family. It's Matt Woodson, Assistant Director of Student Ministries. Uh, Good to be with you guys tonight. Uh, probably like a lot of you, since all of this craziness this past year has gone along, I've had a lot more time to watch Netflix. And while I much would rather be hanging out with people, uh, not watching Netflix, hey, it's at least a pretty good time to catch up on some good shows. I actually recently started watching The Crown, um, and that's a dramatization of the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, and and it's a really great show. Shows the personal going on of the royal family, but it's also a really personal show because um, the show kind of shows a lot of the struggles of the queen. She's kind of constantly questioning, who am I? Like, what's my purpose? Like, how can I serve people well? And this recent episode that I watched early on in the series, she actually is watching the news, and she sees that Billy Graham is in Britain, and she actually invites him to preach a sermon at Buckingham Palace. And um, after she experiences the sermon, like she gains this big boost of confidence. She's reminded of who she is. And while I and Queen Elizabeth II are very different people, there's actually something that we share together in common, and that's being touched by the words of Billy Graham. So back in 1999, if you are a St. Louis native, you will remember that Billy Graham actually came here to St. Louis, and I actually got the chance as an 11-year-old to go to one of his crusades, and it's actually where I became a Christian. And I remember the first few days and weeks of after converting, and I was just so excited about having this new identity. And part of me, even to this day, is like, man, if I could just get back to this moment, if my entire Christian experience could just be this mountaintop experience, that would be so great. But obviously, it's not. I mean, I'm so glad to be a Christian, but there's a lot of roller coasters in my faith. And whenever I think about that, sometimes I'll get really discouraged. Sometimes I'll think, oh, I'm just not a good enough follower of Christ. But I remember whenever I get to that section, I remember Jesus's parable, one of his most famous parables, the parable of the prodigal son. And at the end, the father in this story talks to the older son, probably the son that I relate to a little bit more, probably the one that's a little bit more zealous. Um, and the son is just like really discouraged, and the father gives these words. He says, "All that I have is yours. I've always been with you." And those are actually really encouraging words to me, because what it reminds me is that it's not about us pursuing Christ, because we're always going to fall short of that. It's amazing when we're on the same page with God, and it's a very good thing. But our faith is not dependent on that. Our faith is actually dependent on our Father pursuing us, even whenever we don't pursue Him. Both like the younger son who just kind of squabbles and is just wild, and the older son who just doesn't know what he has. And that's one of the beautiful things about our theological tradition, the Reformed faith, that God is the one who acts first, and He's the one who finishes our salvation. And not only that, but it also reminds us that we are still just children of God, and we act like children. There's something about a child who scrapes his knee on the playground, and and goes and runs to his parents, and they kiss his boo boos, and then suddenly they feel better, and then they feel more confident, and they're able to go back to what they were doing, just hanging out with their friends, doing their homework, whatever. We are children first and foremost, and our parents are one of the most foundational pieces of our lives. And whenever our parents pursue us, we thrive. So, like I said, uh, Queen Elizabeth II and I are very different people, uh, but we both belong to the Lord. And those words, "You've always been with me, and I've always, all that I have is yours," are some of the most comforting words that either of us can hear. They help us relieve the burdens that we place on ourselves. They help us relieve the expectations that others have for us. And it just allows us to be who we're supposed to be. They help us rest in the Lord. By the way, if you haven't checked out my new boss's sermon, Taylor Bruce, check that out because he's got an awesome description of what it means to rest in the Lord. So I hope these words remind you that Christ is pursuing you in this very moment. Whether or not you feel like you are doing a great job at pursuing Christ, whoever you are, wherever you are, and whatever you're experiencing, Christ is pursuing you and loves you. Hey, if Queen Elizabeth is somehow watching this, I hope this blesses her too. It's so good to be part of a church family, and I hope you guys got something out of this. It's a blessing to always talk with you guys. Love you guys all, and hope you guys have a good rest of your night and the rest of your week. Talk to you later. Bye.